Welcome back, Charles. Once again, you have entered into the Solomon Project zone, where it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep that counts. I'm your host, Richard Burns. Check this out. We are southbound on I-87 in New York City. We're currently in the Bronx. And I want you to see this exchange here from one area to another. This traffic right here is the type of traffic that you'll encounter at 2 o'clock in the morning out here. This is how it is when you're on A87 or any of these highways that link you up with 95 South. This is the kind of stuff that you're going to encounter. Okay, so we're going to continue south on I-95. And while we're doing all this, oh Lord, 1 second please. Excuse me for that. That call cannot be ignored. Anyway, going back to what I was talking about. Now, if you look at the signs, I'm currently in the lane that says 95 South. Interestingly enough, if you don't get in the correct lane from the very beginning, when you get to this point, you're gonna have a hard time. I'm looking through my rear view mirror right now, and I see people trying to pile in this lane. But as you approach the exit for both the north and the south, there's really no sign that tells you whether you should be on the left lane or the right lane. So as you're traveling up both those lanes, eventually you're going to have to figure out which lane you're supposed to be in for the direction that you're going. But it makes for an uncomfortable situation. We're in the Bronx. Look at the Bronx. That building off to the right, if you can see it, that's a brand new building. The buildings slightly to the left, well, those are projects. Those are one of the medium-sized projects. Those are like 13 stories tall. Those are like the medium-sized ones. Those aren't like the 25-story ones that we have that are, and even taller than that are in clusters of like 10 to 20 buildings. So there's a lot of people. So there's that sign, trucks to the George Washington Bridge, which is what I'm going to cross. I got to be on the left lane. See, that a sign like that will help you when you take the exit. That gives you both options of going north on 95 or south on 95, but unfortunately they don't have that at the bottom where I was at the entrance to this exit that led me to this. So if you don't frequent this exit, you're not gonna know, and you might find yourself in the wrong lane, and you got to work your way into the correct lane. And that's if people allow you to cut through, because sometimes making a lane change can be extremely complicated. Here comes a huge complication. Now, this lane is going to put us on the far right when we have to be in the 2 left lanes. Now, look at this traffic. I have to cut across, let me see how many. At least 2 lanes I got to cut across. But now the ramp that I'm on right now is narrowing. And now I need to cut over to the left because, okay, so the far right has an exit to 181st Street in Manhattan. But this lane and the next lane over to my left puts you on the lower part of the George Washington Bridge, and trucks are not allowed there. So I have to make my way over to the two left lanes, and you don't have a whole lot of roadway to accomplish that. So I just got a signal from a trucker. He was kind enough to let me into this lane. Cars usually don't give you a break. They just so I'm gonna hit my hazards, and when that trucker behind me sees me flashing my hazards while I'm driving, he's gonna understand that I'm thanking him for giving me that break. When you put your hazards on for a short period of time, let it flash like 3 or 4 times, the truckers behind you understand you're saying thank you. When it's night and you have your lights on, there's a button that you can press that will cause your trailer lights to flash. It's called an interrupter. So see, I didn't try to box that car out that was in front of him that you just saw cut in front of me. I don't drive like that. I don't box people out. I'm moving at a relatively equal speed that everybody else is moving, but I don't hit that gas pedal to try to box people out. That person was able to get inside without having to worry, without having to freak out, and it was mission accomplished. I still keep moving forward. If you look to my left, there are vehicles moving faster than me, but if you look to the right, you're going to notice that there's a ramp for traffic coming inside. Look at this huge gap I got in front of me. I keep the gap large. I'm not letting the gap get larger, so I'm not slowing down, but I keep a gap there so that the vehicles on my right, can get in. Look, here's a truck. That truck will have an incredible struggle to get into this lane. Eventually, he's going to have to come into this lane because that right lane ends. But I keep that gap available for other vehicles to get in so that we can keep the traffic flowing. The right lane flows, the center lane flows, the left lane flows, and eventually there will be no right lane because that lane is going to end. But as you can see, my gap is narrowing, but I'm still giving enough of a gap so at least a car can get in, an SUV can get in. Now the truck kept going. He had an opportunity. The truck on the right had an opportunity to get into the center lane. Not sure why he didn't do it. Maybe he's not familiar with this path here, with the road here. Maybe, although I don't think that's the case. What I do think is happening is that he just wanted to get it. He just wanted to get in front of as many people as he possibly could. And as a result of doing that, and all the other cars doing that, all you do is lower the rate of speed for the lane that I'm in right now. That's called bottlenecking. It happens a lot of times when you approach a construction site where one of the lanes are eliminated. Now there are signs that tell you well ahead of time that one of the lanes are gonna disappear. Now, instead of staying on that lane and racing down to the front, what everybody should do is start moving over at the first opportunity they have. And even if that right lane is clear for like a whole mile, you should try not to allow yourself to see the truck almost hit a car in the left lane. You see how the right lane is clearing up right now? It should be completely clear. Now here comes another truck in the right lane, and that's a bad move, because all he's doing is participating in the bottleneck. Right now I'm moving at 5 miles an hour when I should be moving at 45 miles an hour. And the only way I can move at 45 miles per hour is if everybody in that right lane control their urges, get up in the center lane, and everybody's gonna get through at a much higher rate of speed. Much higher rate of speed. But because you have people that just don't have the self-discipline and the self-control, they bottleneck. They participate in bottlenecking. See how long it is? Without a car, without a vehicle. Here comes another knucklehead. Here comes two knuckleheads. That causes a slowdown. What these two cars did, here comes a third knucklehead. So here comes a fourth knucklehead. All these knuckleheads, all they do is wind up slowing people down. That's all they do. Now I'm looking in the rearview mirror and I see a much longer empty space. And because that empty space is there, the vehicle behind me, which is a truck, he's moving faster now than I was. I was at 5 miles an hour. Now I'm at 22 miles an hour, and the truck behind me is traveling at 22 miles an hour because I can see him moving right along with me. And that was possible. That increase in the speed that we're traveling is possible, but because there were fewer knuckleheads in that right lane causing bottlenecking. It's expected from cars, but when a truck driver does it, that is the absolute worst. That is a total lack of consideration for his fellow truck drivers. Complete lack of consideration. There is no consideration there. Crossing the G-Dub, the George Washington. You're looking at Fort Lee, New Jersey, straight ahead. 33 miles an hour now. I'm cruising. I'm not trying to close no gaps. I'm increasing my speed slowly, but I'm not trying to close any gaps in case people need to switch lanes. They could do it safely. No need to get anxious. I'm at 35 now. Speed limit is 45. Safety first, y'alls. Safety first. And even here, you need discipline. If you want to be a safe truck driver, you need discipline. A lot of it. You know, I was talking about discipline in the last live that I had. And if you want to become a truck driver and you want to be a responsible and safe truck driver, you need a lot of patience and a lot of discipline. There's no way around it. No way around it. Besides the lives around you that are the most precious thing, one of the next most precious things is that thing you work so hard to get, which is your CDL Class A license. You worked hard to get it. You had to come out the pocket in most cases for it. So you want to preserve it. The way to preserve it is to be disciplined and to have self-discipline and self-control. Lord have mercy. Here we go with the phone calls. Be gone. trucker. She just had her birthday a few days ago, and I don't want to mess up her name. Because she did a video on company-sponsored licenses. Tajay Woods. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Tajay Woods. She's a truck driver that produces content on YouTube. Excellent content. And I don't subscribe to too many truck drivers. I'm trying to think off the top of my head how many I'm subscribed to. It must be like 6 or 7. That's about it. There are tons of trucking content creators. Tons. There's a lot of them. But I'm only subscribed to like maybe 7. I got Tajay Woods, Slime Pack, ET Transport, Trucking Made Successful, I think is the name. And one other that escapes my mind right now. Oh no, more than one. Cash, and also I think it's DIY Trucking. Those are the only ones that I subscribe to. I don't really. But Tajay was discussing a point of view from the driver's perspective about trucking sponsored licenses, CDL licenses. In other words, you'll have trucking companies that'll offer you an opportunity to acquire a Class A driver's license by being trained by the very company that will be hiring you. Notice I didn't say it was free, although some people make the mistake of thinking that it's free, or they might have seen an ad that claims that it's free. And if they're claiming that it's free, it's not correct. That's an inaccurate statement. It is not free. With a trucking school, you pay up front. The advantage of going to a trucking school is that once you get your license, you can pick and choose what company you want to go work with to start off. You'll have a handful of places that you can apply for. Swift, JB Hunt, just to name a few, Werner, just to name a few. The pay is not great at all. In your first year, it's kind of rough. It's a struggle. But if you got your CDL through a school, you can send off multiple applications, and the one that you think would benefit you most, keeping in mind, of course, that the differences aren't much at all. But if for some reason one is offering you a better deal than the others and you want to go for that, once you have your driver's license, you can start off with the one that offers you whatever you think is best. One of the points that Tajay Woods was saying is that when you go without a CDL and you want to get it under the company that's willing to train you. Again, it's not free. That money will be taken out of your paycheck as you're training, if they're paying you while you're training, or if after you pass your exams and get your CDL, you start working for the company as a driver, and yes, they'll be deducting money off of the training. You'll be signing a contract, more than likely, that will state something in the order of you having to commit to working for that company for a particular amount of time. And if you choose to leave the company before fulfilling the time, then they can charge you the full amount of whatever that course to get your license would have cost. Could be $7,000, could be more. But there are other things that are specific to whatever contract they put in front of you before you start taking your courses, before you start applying for that company. Some details here, details there, whatever it is. But the bottom line is this: they want you to commit to working for that company. Could be 2 years, could be a year and a half. It all depends. But you're locked in. That's if you don't want to come out of the pocket for that training. You're locked in. Again, it's not free. While you're working and getting a paycheck, maybe somebody who comes into the company with their CDL already in their hand, they might receive a $600 a week check. Whereas if you come in with no CDL and they train you, after you get your CDL, instead of getting, you might get a $600 paycheck, but when you look at the deductions, you're not going home with $600. And I'm not talking about the taxes and the 401k and all that other stuff. I'm excluding all that just to illustrate what I'm talking about. The person with their CDL will have the regular deductions, take home $600 a week, whereas you'll have the regular deductions minus an extra, maybe $50, maybe $75, maybe $100. So instead of going home with $600, like the person with the CDL license has, you being trained by the company that you're working for will probably not come home with the $600. You'll come home with less, maybe $575, $550, $525, because they're deducting the cost of training you to be able to get your CDL. Now, I had told Tyja Woods that I would talk about it from the business owner perspective, because yeah, it hurts when you have that money being deducted even after not coming home with a particular amount weekly. That's just an added bit of pain. Now, from the business owner's perspective, take into consideration that you're handing over a piece of equipment to someone with no experience. And remember, I've told you many times in other videos, between the 2-year and 5-year period that a person is driving, a person tends to be overconfident and start doing things and driving ways that can put them in harm's way, or other people in harm's way, or the equipment in harm's way, or other people's property in harm's way. And when that happens, who do you think pays for that? It's usually not the driver. It's usually the company. And we're not talking about $2,000 or $3,000. Look at Werner, for example. $700 million they had to pay out over a mistake that one driver made. One driver cost Werner $700 million. One driver. And that was a driver who had, I don't know, 8 months on the job. So now consider the owner of the company who's offering to train you, and when they do train you, they still have to pay the people that are teaching you and training you. You're not generating any money, yet the trainers, they have to get paid. So while you're getting trained, you're not generating any money. And yet, the company has to put out. Another thing, insurance. Insurance is extremely expensive. Extremely expensive. One of the content creators that I listened to was talking about how they wanted to hire one driver, and that one driver was going to cost them $50,000 a year. I've heard estimates of up to $62,000 a year for one person. How is a company going to sustain itself? How is a company going to work? A trucking company. How is a trucking company going to work with this kind of money coming out of their pocket? And that's without an incident. That's without an incident. Without an accident. Yes, some mega carriers are self-insured. Werner was self-insured, but they had to come out the pocket $700,000, and that was after the case was over. 700 million, not 700,000. 700 million. That's after the case was over. What about the attorney's fees? Besides the 700 million, it wasn't cheap. So there are costs associated with operating a trucking business that the average person has no clue about, that many truck drivers themselves have no clue about. For them, I'm supposed to get X amount of cents per mile. Where's my paycheck? If they get paid every week, come Friday or Thursday, whenever they get paid, where's my paycheck? If it's every 2 weeks, where's my paycheck? They don't realize that the money that comes in gets impacted by things that even that driver who's asking for his money doesn't do. When other drivers get a speeding ticket, get a ticket for anything, it doesn't matter what it is, and it impacts the CSA score, that impacts every driver in that company and their ability to get better loads. So now it's not just a question of the company kicking out for increased insurance costs and paying out for damaged property a damaged truck because of an accident, it also impacts their ability to get better paying loads. Because all those things get recorded electronically. Brokers, shippers, they all get to see that. You acquire a score because of all these things as a business owner. So your cost increases because of the mistakes that these drivers make. Your ability to get good loads are impacted because of mistakes that drivers make. So somebody wants to be paid like, I don't know, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 right off the rip, right in the school, or whatever the case is. I know that Tajay isn't suggesting that, but yes, there are drivers that do. And people are oblivious to the cost associated with operating a trucking business. And then you have agencies like 411 that can absolutely destroy a trucking company's reputation. And the information doesn't even have to be accurate or true. So, to sum it up, yeah, people have their complaints, but are these people aware of what it means to operate a trucking company? What the costs are associated with a trucking company? The complications that arise because of the behavior of the very drivers that are in the trucking company? Just something to think about. Tajay is awesome. Tajay Woods. Guys, stay fresh. Keep it profitable. And I'm gonna let Kitty guide you out of the hood. Kitty!
Arabam Dacia, seviyorum çift kalem maça. Göremedi kimseden fayda. İşler